Excellent customer service is very important.
Customers want to feel that you respect them, that you are there for them.
Just making sure the customer is satisfied.
I like the fact that I can communicate personally, not just over the phone.
At the end of the day, they know that they have that one person they can actually call on.
You want to treat that person how you would want to be treated.
We work 7 days a week, 365 days of the year. I try to make every experience a wow experience for the customer.
Category 4 Hurricane Joaquin hits the Bahamas. The Prime Minister confident in a PLP victory at the polls. A verdict is reached in the Donna Vasili murder trial. Plus, registration opens for the race for the cure. We've got those stories and more coming up tonight. I'm Dana Smith, and NB12 starts right now. Tonight, Hurricane Joaquin is an extremely dangerous Category 4 storm currently lashing the central Bahamas. The latest advisory puts the eye of the hurricane over Crooked Island. Residents in that part of the country were caught off guard and in some cases stuck in their homes due to severe flooding. This afternoon, Prime Minister Christie urged residents in the path to evacuate immediately. Vonnie Toot reports.
During a news conference here at NEMA's headquarters on Gladstone Road this afternoon, Christie also addressed complaints of residents who blasted government for a lack of preparedness ahead of what has been described as a very, very dangerous storm. He called it a teachable moment.
There is still the challenge of preparedness. And whether or not people are fair in their commentary or accurate, but you've heard talk coming from islands about not having been prepared, being caught by surprise. A living experience of events to do with nature continues to be teachable moments in the life of a country.
As strong winds and heavy rain battered parts of the Bahamas, one Acklands resident told us her home was flooded, but she could not seek refuge at a shelter because none of them were opened ahead of the Category 4 hurricane.
Right now, the seawater is in my yard and in my house. It's ankle deep now. I'm trying to get somebody for 2 hours to come and rescue me. I have seen absolutely nobody. I saw one truck pass, went up, came back down and passed straight. It is bad in Acklands.
The frustrated resident claims officials in Acklands did little to prepare for Hurricane Joaquin, calling it a disgrace.
I see straight across the road in the yard, in my house, and it's like nobody in Acklands cares about you. Nobody cares about anything in Acklands. Actually, we didn't even have a hurricane meeting. There's no shelters open. This is downright slackness and a disgrace.
Island Administrator Harvey Roberts admitted that no shelters were opened because local government officials did not anticipate such bad weather conditions. Prime Minister Christie says officials must learn from such experiences.
Melanie Griffin called me this morning. I said, Melanie, I got to make a speech at 8:30. She said, but Prime Minister, someone called from Inagua indicating that they weren't prepared. And someone else called from Acklands and saying that no one told them they should go to hurricane shelters. So I assume in the mobilization, people would have been told, people would have been called, and we would be on maximum preparedness for it. And if they weren't, no use lamenting over it. The point is, we must know that it must not happen that way.
Christie says government officials must now determine how they go about addressing the issue of disaster preparedness. Joaquin has been described as a very dangerous Category 4 hurricane, which is expected to strengthen as it passes over the Bahamas. Most of the central Bahamas is expected to be within the hurricane bands for 12 to 15 hours. Meteorologists say because the storm is moving so slowly, rainfall accumulation is expected to be between 10 and 15 inches. Residents have been warned that storm surges will cause sea levels to rise another 4 to 5 feet. Crooked Island residents also felt the effects of Hurricane Joaquin as heavy rain and tropical storm force winds damaged signs and downed trees. Resident D'Angelo Knowles in Colonel Hill captured this video overnight.
Presently, I'm outside, and this is what the weather looks like in Crooked Island right at this time. We have strong winds, rain, constant rain, and off and on lightning and thunder. The breeze is the most part of it. The breeze.
Over on Long Island, residents experienced heavy rainfall as well, causing flooding in low-lying areas. Residents in Petty's and Mangrove Bush reported being stuck indoors as water lapped at their doorstep and flooded roads. Meantime, in Exuma, rough seas crashed against the rocks at Government Dock. Heavy rains and storm surges caused flooding in several areas on that island. Amid criticism from impacted residents, Commissioner of Police Allison Greenslade insisted that the necessary infrastructure is in place and police on the various islands have remained in contact with NEMA officials.
Inagua Police from Alpha 1, QSA over. This is a handset. QSA 5, thank you very much. QSA 5 is the best QSA you can get. That's Deep South, is it? We have done a cross-check pursuant to what the Prime Minister asked me to affirm for him, for every island working right back up the chain.
When asked if he feels officials on the impacted islands dropped the ball, Director of the National Emergency Management Agency Commander Stephen Russell said they will have to examine why certain shelters were not opened. He suggested there were communication challenges because some officials may not have been in place.
I can pass a message to every single island simultaneously. That's what we have developed through Dames here, his liaison officer to NEMA, to ensure that we are getting communication out. Now, in terms of the communication process, there may be some challenges in getting your information out because the users of the instrument are not in place or they're not operating as they should, and that's where the challenges comes in.
Prime Minister Christie reassured residents that officials are with them and will move in as soon as possible to conduct initial assessments and provide disaster relief. He says the Attorney General has drafted an order that empowers NEMA's director to order a state of emergency and mandatory evacuations.
An emergency exists, and in the interest of safety, all residents residing in low-lying and coastal areas in these islands should evacuate immediately to designated shelters in order to protect life. Accordingly, I hereby order that a disaster emergency exists in these islands and that all residents of the islands to be named evacuate those areas immediately to the designated shelters.
Prime Minister Christie says their ultimate goal is to come out of this situation with no loss of life. Reporting from NEMA's headquarters for NV12, I'm Vonik Tood.
Chief Meteorologist Trevor Baisden also gave an update on Joaquin's movements. He said it is a dangerous storm that's expected to move over the Bahamas slowly.
The general synopsis is this: because Joaquin is moving so slowly, the rainfall accumulations, right, are expected to be from 10 to 15 inches now. That's with the latest with the Hurricane Center. We have already had advanced prolonged rains, so the ground is saturated.
In its latest storm alert, the Met Department noted Joaquin is expected to produce 10 to 15 inches of rainfall over the central Bahamas, with isolated amounts of up to 20 inches. It said this storm potentially can produce 5 to 10 inches in the southeastern Bahamas and 2 to 4 inches of rainfall elsewhere across the country. Baisden said surges will cause sea levels to rise another 4 to 5 feet.
On top of that are dangerous or battering waves. Okay, so we have a multiplicity of hazards combining there that just makes Joaquin a very, very dangerous, or as they would call it there at the National Hurricane Center. Anytime there's a Category 4 or 5 hurricane, the damage associated with it is described as catastrophic.
The Met Department noted hurricane force winds extend outward up to 45 miles from the center, and tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 175 miles from the center. Residents in the warning areas should ensure that all preparations have been completed and remain indoors once conditions deteriorate. A hurricane warning remains in effect for the northwest, central, and parts of the southeast Bahamas. A tropical storm warning remains for the remainder of southeast Bahamas, which includes Ragged Island and Zuma. In other news, a jury this afternoon found Donna Vasili guilty of the murder of her husband, Australian podiatrist Philip Vasili. In the courtroom, Vasili fainted upon hearing the verdict, while her family members reacted with screams. Simone Davis has the details.
After a unanimous vote, the jury found Donna Vasili guilty for the murder of her husband, Dr. Philip Vasili. Her family was distraught as Vasili was remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections. Justice Stephen Isaacs also agreed to issue her sentence another day. Dr. Vasili was found stabbed to death. Dr. Vasili was found stabbed to death in the guest house of the couple's Old Fort Bay home on March 24th. After 4 hours of deliberation this afternoon, the jury agreed that Vasili was guilty, despite the fact that her attorney declared that there was insufficient evidence in the case. Upon hearing the verdict, Vasili immediately fainted as her daughter yelled out, "She's innocent," before she was rushed out of the courtroom. As officers rushed to help Vasili, who was lying on the floor, Justice Stephen Isaacs called her name several times, but she was unresponsive. When she regained consciousness, the 55-year-old uttered the words, "I love my husband so much." Isaacs explained to her that she was found guilty and would be remanded to prison. Vasili's attorney, Miro DeSille, reiterated that his client is not a threat to society and requested that her sentence be given on a later date. DeSille also expressed his disappointment in the verdict.
Well, obviously, we're disappointed at the verdict. It's within the province of the jury to return, but of course, they must return a verdict according to the evidence, and opposition that is not so. Their verdict yet is still sacrosanct. We have to accept that, but the process is not yet complete. Obviously, we're going to file an appeal with dispatch and deal with it from there on. Everybody has a role to play. They have done their role. They have played their role, and we have to respect it and accept it.
DeSille said until then, he's mainly concerned about Vasili's health.
No, obviously, she's disappointed. We're concerned about her health, and she professes her innocence from day one, and it continues. Nothing has changed in that regard, so that's how it is. So we'll have to take it to another level.
Isaacs thanked the jury for their deliberation and set Vasili's sentence date for November 10th at 10 a.m. Reporting for NB12, I'm Simone Davis.
Prime Minister Perry Christie said by the time the general election is held, the people of the Bahamas would have already seen the wonders his government has done for the country. Christie told reporters today that despite what critics in the PLP and the FNM have to say about government's performance, the Bahamian electorate will ultimately determine the type of job he and his government did within this term. Kyle Joaquin has the story.
2015 is no different. The people of the Progressive Liberal Party will determine for themselves who they would wish to lead the party. Not the FNM, and not people who do not support the party.
Christie has been criticized by many for his decision to seek re-election, despite the fact that he's already served 2 terms. And Christie has been criticized by many for his decision to seek re-election, despite the fact that he's already served 2 terms and is 72 years old. However, he said he's not at all moved. Former PLP MP Philip Galanis has already said that in order to win, the PLP needs new leadership and encouraged Deputy Prime Minister Philip Davis to run for leader. However, Christie told reporters Thursday morning that
the point is the Bahamian people will judge me on the basis of the performance, what I met in place, what I have done so far, and what I will do between now and the next general election. That's how you judge people.
The government has also received criticism over the recent downgrade by international credit ratings agency Standard & Poor's. Christie indicated that while their outlook at the moment may not be so good, those agencies will also help the electorate in deciding whether to support the PLP at the polls or not. But he said by the time election is called, the people would have already seen the wonders the government has done for the country.
Other countries around the world will judge us similarly. Standard & Poor's will judge us, Moody's will judge us, all of the agencies will judge us. The people of the Bahamas will have help in determining how good we are and how well we have fared. I am satisfied that I'm going to be judged effectively and honestly, and that the government of the Bahamas, will in fact be seen to have done wonders for this country.
Now, although PLP Chairman Bradley Roberts has said Deputy Prime Minister Philip Davis will not challenge Christie for the leadership post, Davis himself has been silent on the issue. When asked about Davis's silence on the matter, Christie said he won't speculate and that regardless who decides to challenge him, he will emerge victorious.
I don't want to speculate about what Mr. Davis would or would not do. The point I'm making is you have to ask him, and he obviously will tell you what he will or will not do. The fact of the matter is, I am satisfied that I'm going into the convention as leader, and I am satisfied I'm coming out as the leader. You answer or interpret that how you would like to do it. I am satisfied, beyond any doubt whatsoever, right, that the people of the Progressive Liberal Party in convention, right, will in fact endorse me as the leader of the Progressive Liberal Party coming out.
The PLP's convention is set for November 1st. Reporting for NB12, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Stay with us. There's more news after the break.